All right, and welcome to episode 2 of the podcast Cerebral for the People. In this episode, my name is Tim Bolani, and I will be interviewing Monique Smith on her day. Oh,
Monique after that.
So we have,
Go ahead.
I will be interviewing Monique Antoinette on what it's like for her to live with cerebral palsy on a daily basis. So, Monique, why don't you start out by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first off, let me get in a good position where y'all can see me.
Yes, we know you want to be seen. Yes.
Here I am.
Okay.
But I also want you to be seen as well.
Oh, don't worry about me. Trust me, they'll see me later on.
Well, like he said in his interview, I was born with cerebral palsy, which for me that means all four of my limbs, meaning my arms and legs, are affected, which means I can walk, but I need a walker. I can't fully dress myself, but I can tell you what needs to be done for me. I too have home health aides that come in and make sure that I'm okay. But I also have my mother and my brothers. I have two brothers, one older, and one younger. And I also have two sisters-in-laws, one older, one younger than myself. And they have helped me for 45 years, give or take. I'm 45 years old. My mother was told roughly when I was about 2 years old what condition I actually have. Y'all see me moving around, I still can't see myself. So, she was told when I was 2 years old that I had cerebral palsy. And we have been living in Arkansas most of my life. However, when I was about 1 year old to the time I was 5 years old, I lived in California, where I went to a school with all kinds of people. However, they did have a class with people with special needs. I went to school with a little boy who didn't have no arms, but he had, prosthesis. And then when we moved to Arkansas, they put me in a class mainly so I can get therapy or help, with writing and stuff like that. 'Cause I am a writer. Years later, I write books. For those who are just new to this channel, mostly a poet. I have several books out talking about what it's like to just not only be cerebral palsy, but to be a human being, period. And I talk about it from an emotional standpoint.
That's definitely a good preface to let people know where you're coming from, especially as we start this interview. You mentioned you moved back to Arkansas when you was 5 years old. Can you tell me how when you moved back to Arkansas, because that's when your schooling basically really started.
Right. No, actually, I went to school in California. I went to kindergarten in California. Graduated from kindergarten. But because when I came here, it was in the early 80s, they had this thing where if your birthday was after August, you because of my cerebral palsy diagnosis, they automatically assumed at that time that I needed to be in kindergarten again, even though I could already read, thanks to my mother, I could already read. I started reading on my own when I was about 3 years old. So, once you get this cerebral palsy label on you, sometimes they assume that you're not mentally capable to be in school with other so-called normal kids.
So when you got back to Arkansas and had to do kindergarten, because you just told me something I really did not know.
Yeah.
And we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And
Over 30 years.
Almost over 40.
Yeah.
Now, but so when you went back and basically did kindergarten over again, how did you feel about going into the new environment from California to Arkansas? How did you feel about that? And how did you deal with that?
At first, I hated it. But looking back on it now as an adult, I only like being in kindergarten because I graduated with some phenomenal people.
Right.
And I would not have graduated when I graduated, which is 1997.
You would have graduated the year before, which was 1996.
The best class in the state of Arkansas forever is class 97. I would not have met those people. And he's a hater.
I'm not a hater.
He is. But yeah, I really didn't like it because it was too slow for me.
Too slow.
But because I wrote slow, and because I had cerebral palsy, and because I was a child, I couldn't do anything about it.
So as the years progressed and you moved on to the other the upper grades, how did you adjust to being a student with cerebral palsy? How did you adjust to that to make it work for you? So school could be what it should be, a learning experience.
Well, I just had to constantly prove myself that I could mentally do it. At first, for many years until I was in high school, they either tried to put me in what they call a special education, which is behind my grade. It wasn't until I helped a friend, him, who was already in regular classes with his homework.
Yeah, I remember that.
Did they see that I didn't belong into the class that they had originally put me in? And that's because my mother had me in an after-school program called the Learning Club, where they taught us, reading comprehension. They taught us math, and that's why I was so advanced, because my mother had always treated me like nothing was different about me. However, she knew it was physical difference about me. She mentally did never tell me I couldn't do something.
You mentioned high school. Tell me about. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your why don't we start with your middle school? Tell me about your middle school experience. Not as a student, but just just as a kid going to school with, as they call them, the regular kids. How was that for you? Maybe not necessarily academically, but how was that just for you on a regular basis?
It was actually good from a adolescent teenager experience, because like Tim Baloney said in his interview that y'all would watch, it wasn't the students that had a problem with me, it was the teachers. The teachers did not see that I was capable for a long time. It was only a few teachers out of 8 teachers that saw something different in me. And one was Miss Howe, and she encouraged me to write my thoughts down along with some of my English teachers. But it was really Miss Howe who was a PE teacher. Because that wasn't her field. She was there to help me with my physical development, but she encouraged my inner development with speaking up for myself.
So as she became basically one of your the mentor that you needed to see how well you could expand. How did that go through high school? Talk to us a little bit about the I mean about the high school experience for you. How was that?
Well, a lot of people don't know this because I don't talk about it. Even knowing I had regular classes by that time, the teacher would always tell me, or some adult would always tell me, if I mess up, I can always go to the back to the special education classes. Right there. Cause what that said to me is I gotta overachieve. So when I got B's, I would really get almost depressed. I'm the kind of person that got A's in school and A's on the test, but still did the extra credit because I was afraid they were going to put me in a class that I didn't belong in.
Now you talked about the academic part of it, which I definitely can understand where you would be frustrated with it. But were there any like extracurricular activities that you wanted to try, but you just didn't do it because that just wasn't the stat you just that wasn't the status quo for somebody with a disability to do? Is there anything you wanted to try or that you regret not trying back then that you wish you would have?
Well, our high school, had a wonderful um, theater program where they put on, worthy plays. And I hate to this day, at 45 years old, that I never tried out for a play because I couldn't figure out how to make my disability disappear. Even though that I went to school with Tim Belonging, this guy right here, he was in all the plays, or so it seemed. Went to all the cast parties. And as you see, he was in a wheelchair too. But even still, I was too embarrassed, or I thought people would make fun of me for even trying to be in a play in my condition.
So that's a regret that you had.
Oh,
Wow.
most definitely.
But see, now you do have that, but you mentioned earlier that you are a writer. What made you say that was the avenue that you wanted to go? What was the point that said I've got to write that first book that the truth is I've got to write how I really feel is the name of your first book. What made you say I got to write? I've got to get this down on paper. What was the catalyst that?
What happened was all my life up until high school, I used to watch um, drug shows with my dad and drug TV shows, and also People's Court with my dad, who is no longer on this earth. He passed away 3 years ago. Up until I was a teenager, I wanted to be a lawyer. But my English teacher the time. I'm not gonna name her name, but I do know her name. I was in the 10th grade, and her son had been a lawyer, and they asked me what I wanted. My aide asked me what I wanted to be after high school, and I said a lawyer. And my English teacher said, I don't think you can be a lawyer uh, because you have to speak a certain way. She was referring to my disability. So right then and there, I switched my dream of being a lawyer to being a writer. However, I did not think I was going to be a poet. I wanted to be a writer like Danielle Steele or Terry McMillan because I saw their books being turned into a movie. But what really got me into writing is I had a crush on a guy who I'm not going to say his name, even though I know it. I had a crush on a guy, and that same PE teacher that I met in junior high school encouraged me to write him a letter to get my feelings out. And also, when I was in English class, I always got top honors in English class, and all my teachers always shared my work with other teachers. So that's how I discovered that I could write. Because when I had a crush on this guy, I couldn't verbally talk. Nothing would come out. Not even my name. If somebody asked me, that's how taken back I was on him and how he looked. And Tim's laughing because he remembered how far gone I was.
Speaking of relationships, I know this is going back a little bit, but did you go to the prom?
Yes, I went to a prom.
Tell us a little bit about how that was.
You're funny.
Just tell us how that was for you as a person, as you say, with a disability. How was that for you, and how were you seen? How were you treated in that environment?
Well, I went to the prom with the guy who was my best friend at the time. We still close to this day.
Yeah.
And I will tell you about that in another interview. Hopefully I can get him and his wife. But I went to the prom with my best friend at the time. He asked me, and I never thought I would be able to go to the prom because people in my condition are not seen as sociable or beautiful. And so when he asked me, it was a shock. And we ended up having a real nice time.
Well, I know that this next question is probably gonna start some world wars. But during that time when you went to the prom with this person, in that respect, did you make anybody jealous of that when that occurred? If so, can you elaborate on that?
Well, at the time when he asked me, he did not have a girlfriend when he asked me. But when he asked me in our junior yearbook, our junior year of high school, he asked me, he wrote it, how somebody signed your yearbook.
Yeah.
He wrote it in the yearbook. And fast forward to the senior year, he had a girlfriend. And he did not tell her until the last month or so that he was not taking her.
So she thought she was, all this time they were dating, she thought she was going to
Right.
get 2 senior proms for the price of 1 because
Right.
she was a year younger than him. Am I
Right.
correct with that?
Right. So what happened was, because he is a stand-up guy and a nice guy, he honored his word.
Yeah.
And he took me anyway. I would have understood if he did not take me, even though I would be hurt because, like I said, we were best friends at the time. And like he's like, of course I'm gonna take you, but his girlfriend at the time did not like me at all.
Well,
So, but like I said, I have to keep saying to you that me and him are friends now, and he is happily married to a beautiful person. Not her, but he is married to a beautiful person who is also my friend.
So you got the fairy tale prom that everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody,
and I have pictures.
Yes, you did.
I have pictures and proof.
As you got out of high school, and did you go on to continue your education, or what did you do after high school? What did you do to because you were in that you started the writing, because of that teacher that you mentioned. Did you continue your education after you graduated high school?
Yes, I went to the University of Little Rock for a year. And the reason I stopped there is because at the time that I moved to another city, my transportation informed me that I moved too far for them to take me to and fro to my college. So what happened was, after I decided to not return because of that, I got a correspondence class in the mail. This is when you did stuff in the mail, and it was a writing course for you write for children and teenagers. And I got my degree. I also took a poetry.com class, and both of those certificates took over 2 years. So I tell people I have a bachelor's degree in creative writing, which I technically do. I just had to do a little bit different.
So with that being said, and you've written several books over the years. How have they been received? I mean, they've all been on different aspects of life, as we know. But how have they been received? Not only by the people that you know, but as the public at large. Can you give us a little bit of insight on that?
Well, to be honest with you, I still have trouble getting people to read my book, only because I don't think we are, as a society, are big readers. They it seems like everybody has a short attention span or whatever. But they out there on Amazon.com and other platforms wherever you get your books, but mainly on Amazon. But to go back to a question he asked me, how I started writing my first book. I didn't know I was writing a poetry book. I just knew everybody that I thought was my friend was getting married and still in college, and I didn't have nobody to talk to. So I started writing my feelings down. My mother, she showed me a contest that Poetry.com was hosting, and cash prize was $10,000 or something for the best poem. And even though I didn't never win that $10,000, I kept getting my poems put in these compilation books, and before I knew it, I had over 100 poems over a course of 4 years, and it turned into a book.
So you're saying you didn't win the contest as you just mentioned, but you were published in other publications
by Poetry.com.
Right. So what is the overall goal for you with the writing? I know you want to get people to be aware of the feelings of aware of disabilities, but what if you could have one goal, what is that for you? For you per se, what is the goal for you?
That I am a human being and I belong here on earth just like anybody else.
And do you think you have started to bridge that gap, as they say, although slowly but surely?
With this interview, yes, slowly but surely.
How do you see this podcast that you just began to kind of come up with? How do you see that going forward? How do you see that formulating into something much bigger?
Because there are so many people, believe it or not, thousands, over 700,000 to be exact, with this condition called cerebral palsy. My hope is to put a normalcy on it.
But now let me ask you this. Now there's a possibility. I was thinking about this. There's a possibility of backlash of people saying, "Oh, she's just trying, she's just trying to be noticed because of that." But would you not say that's a positive thing too? Because at least they're reacting to it, whether it be a positive or a negative way. At least they're reacting to it to see what the condition is and what it is to live like a person with cerebral palsy.
Yes, because I learned now that I'd rather somebody talk to my face than talk behind my back.
Do you think that's a problem these days, though? We're so easy to text somebody something, but we're so afraid to tell them the truth to their face.
Right.
Do you think that could be an issue with these podcasts? Because I mean, you'll get comments, but do you think anybody will be brave enough if they disagree with your point of view? Do you think they'll be brave enough to tell you why to your face?
I hope so.
I would
but
hope so.
I'm also aware that certain people are just not able to, are very cowardly, lying kind of thing.
And I wanted to end with this. Are there any friends from high school that you are really close to now? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about them and how they have progressed to adulthood with you as well?
Well, along with this guy who's interviewing me, trying to get all up in my business today, I also am really good friends with, as I said, the guy who took me to the prom and his wife. I'm also friends with a dancer, choreographer, business owner, public speaker, life coach. Her name is Julie K. Stockup. I hope to one day interview her soon on this podcast. And she is the one I referenced when I said to y'all, my high school did not want me to walk to get my diploma. And when I asked the principal, could I walk, he said no. When Julie K heard that he was not going to let me walk, she went off on him and said she would gladly walk beside me. She actually walked behind me to get my diploma to make sure that dream of mine came true. So.
And the last question would be, what do you want people that see this? What do you want people, not only this episode, but as the podcast as a whole? What do you want them to take from it? From not only from your point of view, but from a human being point of view. What do you want them to take out of this?
That that I am just that human. Meaning I have emotions, I have feelings, I have ups, I have downs, I have everything you have. I just can't do everything you can do. And it's not my choice to be this way. I wouldn't choose this life if God came down and said, get in this body. It's not a life you want or choose to be in. It just is what it is.
Do you have anything before we end this? Do you have anything that you want to add from your personal aspect to let people know before we end this interview? Is there anything that you want to say?
Just don't be afraid to talk to me. Never talk at me or about me. Talk to me.
Well, I think that's a very true lesson that everybody needs to learn from. Well, for episode 2 of this beautiful podcast on cerebral palsy, I just want to say goodbye and see you in the next episode.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining me for this, Miss Antoinette.
Let's stop it. Let me stop.